أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. These are the Ramadan daily Quran studies for the year 2024, written by Zahid Aziz and produced by Ahmadiyya Anjuman Ishaat Islam, Lahore, UK.
Study 14. Women in Islam. 5. Position in sight of God. Chapter 19 of the Quran is entitled Maryam, or Mary. In it, the story of Mary is introduced by the words, "And mention Mary in the book." 19:16. A few verses later, the histories of Abraham and Moses are related in this chapter, and each of these is introduced by the same expression, "And mention Abraham in the book." 19:41. And mention Moses in the book. 19:51.
واذكر في الكتاب مريم واذكر في الكتاب إبراهيم واذكر في الكتاب موسى.
Here we see that no distinction is drawn between how these two great prophets are mentioned and how Mary is mentioned. In chapter 21 of the Quran, entitled Prophets, histories of various prophets, from Abraham through to Zacharias and John, who appeared just before Jesus, are related as examples in verses 51 to 90. Then, verse 91 mentions Mary and Jesus as follows.
والتي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيها من روحنا وجعلناها وابنها آية للعالمين.
And she who guarded her chastity, so we breathed into her of our inspiration, and made her and her son a sign for the nations. 21:91. Again, in this chapter 21 of the Quran, Mary is mentioned along with the great former prophets. And she is said to have been made by God as a sign for the nations of mankind, along with her son, that is Jesus. Sign means something from which people can learn a lesson. In the Quran, two women from the past are cited as good examples for Muslims to follow. One who was at a lower level of faith, and one who was at a higher level.
وضرب الله مثلا للذين آمنوا امرأة فرعون إذ قالت رب ابن لي عندك بيتا في الجنة ونجني من فرعون وعمله ونجني من القوم الظالمين. ومريم ابنة عمران التي أحصنت فرجها فنفخنا فيه من روحنا وصدقت بكلمات ربها وكتبه وكانت من القانتين.
And Allah sets forth an example for those who believe. The wife of Pharaoh, when she said, "My Lord, build for me a house with you in the garden, and deliver me from Pharaoh and his work, and deliver me from the wrongdoing people." And Mary, the daughter of Amran, who guarded chastity, so we breathed into him of our inspiration, and she accepted the truth of the words of her Lord and his books, and she was of the obedient ones. 66:11-12. In 66:11, Pharaoh's wife typifies the believer who is not yet free from the bondage of sin, just as Pharaoh's wife, who was a believer, was in the grip of the evil Pharaoh. But such a believer prays to be delivered from the evil from which he is not free. In 66:12, Mary typifies the highest grade of believer. Just as she guarded her chastity, He guards himself against all low desires, and therefore receives inspiration from God. Chapter 58 of the Quran is entitled Al-Mujaddala, or the woman who pleads. A woman's husband separated her from him by an old Arab custom by calling her as his mother. Under this unjust custom, she ceased to hold the status of wife, but she was not divorced and therefore not free to marry elsewhere, and the husband could take her back whenever he wanted. This woman complained to the Holy Prophet, but he could not intervene as he had no revelation about it. Allah then revealed to him,
قد سمع الله قول التي تجادلك في زوجها وتشتكي إلى الله والله يسمع تحاوركما إن الله سميع بصير الذين يظاهرون منكم من نسائهم ما هن أمهاتهم إن أمهاتهم إلا اللائي ولدنهم وإنهم ليقولون منكرا من القول وزورا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَعَفُوٌّ غَفُورٌ.
Allah indeed has heard the plea of her who pleads with you about her husband and complains to Allah. And Allah hears the contentions of both of you. Surely Allah is hearing, seeing. Those of you who put away their wives by calling them their mothers, they are not their mothers. None are their mothers except those who gave them birth. And they utter indeed a hateful word and a lie, and surely Allah is pardoning, forgiving. 58, 1-2. As stated here, Allah Himself heard the woman's complaint and sent revelation to the Holy Prophet condemning that custom. The revelation went on to say that those husbands who then wanted to take back their wives must first repent by performing some act of general charity as penance. The voice of an ordinary woman was heard by Allah, and He sent His ruling to His Prophet to redress her complaint. This incident shows that in Islam, women are entitled to take their complaints about maltreatment by their husbands to the lawmakers of the country.
Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Qur'anil Azim wa nafa'na wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim innahu ta'ala Jawadun Karimun Balakun Barru Raufur Rahim.